So, hello everyone, and welcome to my channel and the Encounter with Beautiful Minds. It is always exciting to discover a new universe, and thank God, right? We are so different in the sense of unique, as this gives us an opportunity to always expand our perception, our own abilities, and our own universe. And we all know that all these social media platforms are now playing a great role in keeping us connected. And we can actually appreciate even more now the ability to connect with each other. However, there has been, and there probably will still be, this little side effect of connecting with people at a superficial level, when we tend to create an impression or an image of others only through a few images or texts that they share, and often that has very little to do with who they really are. So my guest today, Sophie Michelle, is one of my Facebook friends that I have never met in person and never really exchanged with, other than maybe a couple of reactions to her posts. So I'm even more thrilled to discover her universe. So let me introduce her to you in her own words. And I love it. Listen to this. French people are romantic, and Sophie Michelle did not escape the curse. I totally agree with that, Sophie Michelle. I live in France, and I got contaminated. She seduces audiences into believing they can do anything they set their mind to, being happy while doing it. I love this. Now listen to this. When Sophie was 18, she heard that there was a great film school in Los Angeles that Steven Spielberg was never able to attend. So she made it her own personal challenge to attend and graduate from that school. So she graduated from USC School of Cinema and Television 5 years later. Sophie Michelle, just so you know, my daughter has this school on her list. So thank you for sharing that. Throughout her life, anything Sophie desired to do, she did. It did not matter what was required, how long it would take. If she wanted it, she would have to do it, or she would have it, or she would do it. So I can't wait to tap into that, Sophie. So for the last 7 years, Sophie Michelle has traveled the world and spoken in front of diverse audiences about creating what they think is not possible yet. So today, Sophie gives everything she knows and sees via her YouTube channel and her artwork. Sophie, welcome to the show. I'm so grateful for you accepting my invite.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about this conversation.
Yeah, we have plenty of things to explore and to share here, isn't it?
Yes.
So hearing your brief story, I'm curious to find out more and to tap into this drive of yours and see how you do it and how it actually feels. So my first question is, this drive and determination that I sense through the words you shared with me has always been there? And if so, when is it the first time you felt it?
So when I was very young, I had difficulties walking, and from the beginning, my family put me in this state of mind that if I wanted to do it, I could do it. Because if I had those physical limits, they always said to me, no, you're going to go get over those limits and really push yourself, and you will achieve anything you want. And because the physical aspect of it was already challenging, anything else that showed up, it became something that I could do. I could get over it. I could get around this. I could go further than what I thought my limitation was, because I already had experienced the physical aspect of it. So it's interesting you talk about a drive, because to me, it's not really a drive. It's who I am. So I don't see myself as somebody who gives up or quits or say, it's too hard. I see myself as somebody who just does it. And so I don't think of it as a drive. It's part of who I am. It's how I'm made. That being said, I do believe it's possible to become like this. So if you don't feel you have that drive, or if you don't feel you can get over obstacles, you can learn. I mean, it's something you practice. It's something you can change for sure. I've done it many times with people. So as much as I think I was pretty much set up from the get-go like this, I still think it's something you can change.
And how could that happen, Sophie? If you were the goddess of the determination and drive, because you are. You are because you are it. You
Yeah.
don't have a skill, you are that. And if I was your student, what would you teach me to do? What would be the first thing that I needed to do? Is it a thought? Is it something that I feel inside?
Yeah, it's for me at first it's an experience, right? So when we are really present with our bodies, we're going to be aware of sensations, right? Whether so as I'm speaking with you right now, I have a little bit of asthma, and it's not bad, it's not terrible, but and I'm drinking coffee for that reason because it helps with my asthma. But I can sense in my throat and in my lungs, I can sense a little bit of restriction. Now, being aware of that, I have two choices. I can start going into, oh my gosh, I have asthma, it's going to get bad, it's going to get worse, I need to get my medicine, all of that. Or I can go into, okay, how am I going to continue this conversation without letting the asthma affect me? So that's where, as soon as you become aware of it, you now have a choice. You can go this way, that way, or even a third way. And from there, if you consider yourself as somebody who has free will, which we've been told for millenniums that we have free will, if you consider yourself as a free thinker, which is something that I'm considering exploring right now, but a free thinker, somebody who can think for themselves and not because of somebody told you, then you can make a choice. Then you can choose whether you're going this way or that way. And the trick for me is there's no wrong choice. Whether I go and grab my medicine right now, or I just be okay with this and relax and let it go, there's no wrong choice. Now, when you don't have a wrong choice, that's when you really, truly are free. If you decide there is one choice that is better than the other one, you're not free anymore. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I'd like to know more about that. How did you
Okay.
get to this conclusion or to this knowledge? Because actually it's more of a knowing than a conclusion, right?
Okay, so once again, I'm going to go back to my body and go back to my sensations. So if I say it's wrong to grab my medicine versus just getting over it or relaxing, in my body, I'm going to sense some kind of constriction, some kind of restriction. So my body is going to tense up, which will increase the difficulty in my life. So as soon as my body tenses up, then it's more difficult. There's more effort. And in France, we talk a lot about elegance in France. And elegance is the ability to do something with the least effort required, right? So if the fact that I'm constricted, if I'm tense, there is more effort, it's not elegant. And therefore, it's probably not going to create what I want to have in my life. Now, if you're somebody who enjoys, making things really hard for yourself, then yeah, you may choose the other path. But that's not me. So it also depends on what you want to have in your life. I much prefer elegance than effort. And therefore, I'm going to let go of that the cause of the effort. I'm going to let go of the judgment, because the judgment is the part that makes me feel restricted. Okay, did that help you?
Yes. And how do you let go of the judgment?
Aha. That's a good question. For me, it's simply a choice. So for me, because I have more interest in having an effortless life than a life filled with hard work. So for me, why would I continue holding on to judgment if that's going to create more hard work for me? I must prefer let go of that judgment and continue on an effortless path. Now, judgment feels very familiar because we are in this world, in this universe, there's plenty of places to have judgment, right? So it's very familiar. that does not mean, it's not because it's familiar that it's right. And I would recommend that people look into, okay, I know this is, I'm used to this, but even if I'm used to this, should I keep it? Should I still have it? Is this working for me? It's not because it's familiar that you need to keep having it. So that's where judgment is very sneaky. But if you just try for a minute or try for 5 minutes to not hold judgment, to not maintain judgment, to look at judgment, so because you can't really get rid of it, it's really more your relationship with the judgment. So if you just look at it, oh, okay, cool, I'm judging myself, cool, now it can go away, right? Now you can move on. But if you're like, no, judgment, bad judgment, bad judgment, that's not going to work. You can't do that. You just have to look at it, like, okay, don't judge the judgment, basically.
Don't judge the judgment. I like that. And how do we recognize judgment? Is there a taste to it? Because many people are going through life doing what they do, but they don't even look inside, and they don't even recognize the fact that they are judging themselves. They just feel bad and they don't know why, or they just have a bad feeling, which eventually leads to a physical symptom in the body. So how do we recognize judgment?
So with what you said, my experience is, don't look at the outside world, right? Because if you say, I feel bad because, so like, because this person said something to me, or I feel bad because the economy is bad, I feel bad because everybody's getting sick right now. So you're looking at the outside world as the cause of why you feel bad. Then you're going to be stuck because you can't do anything about that. That's outside of yourself. You have no control over that. So there's really nowhere to go there, right? But if you look at, okay, I feel bad, I'm the one who's feeling bad. What is causing this? So this is where you have to look at yourself and dig deeper. Okay, if you feel bad, you may have a thought that makes you feel bad. And in that thought, there may be a judgment. Or you may remember something. Whatever it is, you have to look at what it is you're doing, what it is that you're experiencing, that you're choosing, that you're having, that's making you feel bad. And now in there, through that process, in there, you will find the judgment. Don't stay there, because, you know, a lot of times what I see is people say, well, I'm judging myself. Okay, great. What's behind that? Go behind the judgment. You know, we were not born as children. We were not born with the idea that we need to judge ourselves. That is not something we were born with. It was acquired because we saw everybody around us doing it. So that's when we started doing it. But there is a little part of you behind that judgment who does not judge yourself. So if you keep digging, if you keep looking behind and behind and behind, you'll see eventually you don't judge yourself, and you can learn to undo that completely.
I totally understand. I follow that. So judgment then becomes a sort of a thought, right? Or that inner voice that keeps repeating the same things that we have learned at a certain point in time when we did something and we were judged for doing it wrong. So it comes to being right or wrong, perhaps.
Absolutely. You know, I'm an artist, and I'm currently developing a new body of artwork. And because it's new, I'm doing it in a new way. My first reaction is, this sucks. This is not good, right? That's my first reaction. But then I'm like, hold on. Who am I to say it sucks? Maybe somebody would like it. Who, I don't know. Like, it's, you know, artwork it's so, there's such a wide variety of artists out there. Who am I to say this sucks? So that's where you, of course, being out in the world helps, because you can see how many people like different things, and so you can use different experiences, and you can contradict yourself, you can learn from it. But in the end, it's going deeper, going deeper, going deeper.
Going deeper. Yes. Yeah. So if I have to put everything together that you said, there's first an awareness of a bad feeling that I have. Then it's awareness of some thinking that's happening. and the awareness of some judgment or some words that I'm telling to myself. And then there is a choice of going or not going with that thought. Well,
Yeah.
since we reach this place, well, how do we do that? How do you reject a thought or you accept another?
How do you choose to eat something versus something else? That's it. You just choose. That's where the how becomes obsolete at that point, because then you already know how. Like, you know to move your arm up here, or you know to open your mouth to speak. Same thing. You know to choose. You know how to choose. This is something you've done since you were born. So it's not something that you need to figure out. You know how to do this already. You were born with that ability to choose. So just choose.
So is it simple as that?
Yep. See, I was telling a friend yesterday, I'm currently reading a book that's about 30 years old and explains wealth creation. And I read it and I was like, this is so simple, yet I know about 80% of the people who are going to read this book are never going to apply it because it's so simple. But sometimes simple is the most true way. So if you actually follow the simple, you may actually find what's true for you.
So do you call this wisdom, Sophie?
What do you mean?
I mean, this understanding that you've reached, this knowing that you've reached in your life, the simplicity of the action, the simplicity of choice, is this a wisdom that you have acquired, or is something that was always with you?
I think it was always with me, but I did not have words for it until, for the last, 25 years, I've done all kind of personal development classes and courses and all kind of things. And those classes were great. Each class brought me something different. But one thing they brought me was the words to express something that I already knew. And more likely, if I was in a class where I was like, I already know this, it was like, oh my gosh, somebody's finally putting the words to something that I've known since I was a kid. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. And how come you were interested in these classes? Why did you feel that need for self-development? What pushed you to explore?
I'm a very, very curious person. And so I'm always like, I wonder how this works all the time. And I think the human spirit is fascinating. Now, I want to say something about that, because I grew up in the Catholic religion. From being born in France, I grew up with the Catholic religion. I went through all of it. And then when I moved to America, I didn't find I needed it. So I left my spirituality and I, did all kind of things. Now, about a year and a half ago, I met a gentleman who felt so happy, so healthy. And I was like, what is he doing? I in all the self-development classes that I've done, I had never met somebody who was so kind, so well-balanced, and so self-disciplined. And so I asked him a lot of questions, and he was of the Christian faith, which at that time, I thought, well, I don't want to talk to him because, if he's Christian, he's probably, stubborn and stupid. Like, that was my very interesting point of views. So we had lots and lots and lots of conversation. I noticed that he did not give up and he kept talking with me, and we argued for hours and hours at a time. Like, we would spend 5 hours arguing about the word truth. I remember that conversation specifically. And eventually he said to me, why don't you come and join me at church? Meaning, come and have the experience that I have, right? So I went to his church and I was like, these people are weird. But the weirdest thing for me was they were so nice and so intelligent. Like, I was talking to these people and I was having conversations that I very rarely have with people I meet for the first time. So that really intrigued me. And what happened is I decided to go to the source. So the Bible is a book that many, many, many people have read. And what's interesting is the Bible is the translation of very old texts that have been written hundreds and thousands of years, right? So I went and I read the Bible. For every word that I did not agree with or I did not understand, I went and looked at the origin of the word. So I studied the Bible in a way that probably most people don't study. And what I found was everything that I had learned in my self-development classes was in the Bible. Everything. And when I went to the root of it, right? So now I am of the Christian faith, even though I probably live my faith in a very different way than most Christians, but that's okay. I am of the Christian faith. And I realized that everything that I'm talking about with you right now, it's been spoken for thousands of years. But was it heard? I'm not sure. So I'm really interested today in finding the ways to express it so that people can hear it. You know, I think that's one of my big work right now is how do I express those concepts? How do I tell the stories in a way that people can hear them?
And have you reached a way yet, or you're on the process of developing something?
I'm in the process, for sure. I'm in the process. Yeah.
It's beautiful what you're saying, and I've experienced a similar experience to yours. I'm an Orthodox Christian, and
Yeah.
I've always been a Christian in my heart, but I also needed to explore in yoga and meditation and NLP and access consciousness and EFT. And I never found any contradiction in that, although many people could look at it in a different way. But I never felt any conflict in being a Christian and holding that faith and that which feels true in my heart with anything else that I've studied. Actually, they just became tools for me to deepen, if you want, my own faith. So what is faith then? What do you trust and what do you believe in beyond any doubt, Sophie?
The one thing I believe beyond any doubt is how much we are loved. We are so, so loved. And every day, every single day, I see the proof of it everywhere around me. And you know, like, think about this. When I grew up in the 90s, and I remember the ozone layer, right? And how panicked we were because there was a big hole in the ozone layer. And it was, I mean, I remember the world was ending. It was really that big. Now, after 2 or 3 weeks of most people being in lockdown, suddenly the ozone layer is healing itself. Now, that's, to me, that was science fiction. There was no way that was going to happen, right? And I'm like, of course, I hate the virus for everything it's doing and all the people suffering and all of that. I hate that. But I'm like, wow, how loved are we that something happened in the world so big that it's healing this home that we're on. It's healing it in a way that we can actually stay longer and we can thrive. I mean, like I said, it's terrible what's happening to people on in the health world, but our home is taken care of right now. And I am amazed by, like, once we tap into that love, what's possible right now. It's amazing. It blows my mind. You know, I'm like looking at things that I've been asking for years. So I live in the United States. My kids go to American schools, and there are things in the schools that I've been struggling with, that I've been asking for them to change, like the testing systems and the way they teach some of the core concepts. I was really struggling with it, but I know that there's no way me by myself that I could change any of it. And I spoke to many teachers and administrators, and they're like, there's too much happening for this to change. Guess what? Now they're talking about changing all of that. Some of it could go away, and some of it could completely be changed. And I'm like, there was no way I could have done that, right? So we are so loved. And that's the one thing I wish, in fact, in my art is all about showing people how much we are loved. That's really, I want them to take my art and be like, wow, you know, and really get how much we are loved.
Sophie, I'm so curious because you're talking about that. How does it feel when you feel loved, when you have that certitude? How would you describe it if you were allowing yourself to tap into that now?
You remember we talked about being present with your body, right?
Yes.
In the beginning. And when you do that, when you're really being present with your body, you suddenly realize your body is not just your physical envelope. It actually goes a lot further than that. And when I do that, when I completely relax and I sense how big my body is, I can also sense almost like somebody wrapping their arms around me, like a really big, big hug. And in a way that is very gentle and also protective. So I know that I'm protected and then I'm cared for. So that's the biggest thing right now. Like as I'm speaking with you, I can feel this presence around me, surrounding me. So that's number one. Number two, at night when I pray, so I pray and I completely relax myself. So I let go of anything that I could ask for or let go of any, you know, any judgment, anything like that. I just completely let it go and I enter in what I call communion with Holy Spirit. So I really relax and completely ask for Holy Spirit to come and let me know it's there. And when I do that, it feels like a wave of energy going through my body. It feels like my cells are realigning. It feels like there's a light that's like if somebody was here and measuring a paranormal activity, they probably would see some kind of light coming out of my body. It feels like that. So, and that's, but this is challenging because at first, for me, at first, spirit was outside and was, you know, like you and I, like a person in front of me. But now it's emerging. It's like I still exist, but I don't need to be defined in that moment. I can completely let go of everything that I know myself to be, so that I can receive something a lot greater. And then when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, okay, I feel powerful. I feel like I can do anything, all of that. So it's because of that merging. I hope that makes sense.
It does, and I felt it. You
Good.
described it so well.
Good.
So
Good.
that feeling of being loved translates actually and influences your daily actions, your daily thoughts. So it materializes into existence in every possible way, I suppose.
There are so many things right now that I would like to fight in the world, but because I feel like I'm loved, I don't need to fight anything. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna turn out okay. And I spend a lot of time on social media, but I don't respond to a lot of the posts because I can see that where I come from is a very different place than most people. Most people come from, I'm not loved enough. I come from, I'm so loved that everything is going to be okay. So if I share that with the world, I'm like, I don't know how they're going to, I don't know if it's going to be received well all the time. However, I was going to say, because I know how loved I am, I don't need anything from anyone, which also makes me a lot kinder and a lot more generous with people, because I don't need to get. I can give a lot. I don't need to get. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely, because you're connected to the source.
Exactly.
You are the source. You
Yeah.
become the source by being connected at that level.
Mm-hmm. Like if I go grocery shopping, I'm like, okay, what can I be that would make their day, right? And I don't know if you saw on Facebook, but I finally got a mask that has a transparent, because in my area, we have to wear masks everywhere we go. So I have a mask that has the transparent part around my mouth so people can see me smile, because I hate not being able to smile to people. So I was like, I want to smile at people. I got that mask so that I can do that and connect with people more easily.
So if I understand well, please correct me if I'm wrong, or if I put it in a different words. If I want to connect and if I want to feel loved, it is simply one thought away or one gesture away, one intention away. Just allowing myself or making that request to feel connected, or a prayer, or what is it? If somebody listening now, watching this, wants to do that and to get into that feeling,
Yeah.
what can they do right now? Can
So
we do something together? Do you have a little tool? Can we do something together now?
This is where, unfortunately, self-development has not been very helpful, and I'm going to explain why. We have developed this sense that I am big, I am important, I am right, I am good, which is great. It's fine. I love that people think that. The problem is, if you are the one who knows all the time, then when I'm telling you there's a greater spirit, there's a greater being that wants to connect with you, but you need to let go of everything that you think you know or everything that you think you are. That means you need to let go of your ego, you need to let go of your fears, you need to let go of how you define yourself, what you think of yourself. You need to trust. So it is one thought away, but it's not an easy thought to let go of, right? Because most people are going to be like, well, I know better. Nobody is greater than me. And I'm sorry, I'm not doing it right. It's awesome that you think that, and at the same time, it's going to prevent you from receiving something so much greater. So I think humility in that case is very important. So you need to be humble enough to be like, I'm awesome, and there's something even greater that I can tap into. Once you are willing to really see that and let go of that, then it becomes very easy. But for a moment, you have to be like, yeah, I'm awesome. And what if I just let go of how awesome I am? What if I completely surrender to spirit and let spirit take over? That doesn't mean you disappear. And this is something I had to struggle with. You don't disappear. You don't go away. You're still here. But spirit now has a chance to bring you even further than if you're like, I am great. Does that make sense? I hope that helps.
Absolutely. I've reached exactly the same conclusion, not conclusion, but the same realization as you. Yeah. And there is a beautiful movie. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called Samskara. It's a Tibetan movie. And it's the story of a Tibetan monk who is taken to the monastery according to their tradition at 5 years of age. And when he reaches the adult age, he's doing this typical Tibetan meditation of 3 years, 3 months, 3 days. And still after that, he needs to go out there and experience the world. And it's in this movie that on their path from that groove where he did the meditation back to the monastery, he's passing this arrangement of stones. And on the stones, each stone has a message and a question. And one of the questions that he's seeing as he's passing is being actually carried, because he cannot walk after all this time, is how can you ever stop a drop of water from getting dry? And I'm sorry if I'm a spoiler if you ever see the movie, but later on in the movie, he's passing by the same place, and he's turning the stone, and he sees the answer, which is by dropping it into the sea.
Yeah.
So exactly. I totally agree with you that there is a lot of tendency, and if the world goes as it goes today, it's because we thought too much that we are very powerful, we are the masters, we can control nature, we should impose our will on nature, and that we should just go out there and do the best in an aggressive way. And to me, the meaning of what is happening today, if there is one at that level, is basically to turn into that humility, as you say, and surrender to the greatest power, which knows, which created this, and that can guide us towards the best solution for all of us, not for few that are the best and successful and driven, and they show how good they are. So what is then success to you, Sophie? A successful life?
I think a successful life is being able to express myself fully. And what I mean, and it's not just express my ideas or my thoughts, but also express my heart. So how much I love people, how much I care for people. And so full expression for me is really critical. And for me, that's success, to be able to fully express everything that I was made to be, basically.
So why do you think you're here on this planet, in this body, in this world?
I think I'm here to remind people how much they're loved, for sure. Yeah, that's what I'm here for. Because I love loving. I love loving on people. So yeah, I definitely think that's why I'm here for, to remind people how loved they are, for sure.
So this is the gift that you are to the world.
Sure. You said it, not me. Yeah, for sure.
Apart from, because you described to me your childhood, which was difficult from a physical point of view, have you, now looking back at those moments, have you noticed something that was already there, something that some people might consider as a special gift or a special talent, psychic abilities, and people put it into that category, but it has nothing to do with that. It's actually pure being, in my opinion. But what was yours?
In my faith, there's a word that I love, and it's called impartation. And impartation is when you have an anointing and you willingly, with the intention, you give it to others. So I think the thing that I love to impart on people is joy. And I think I had a natural ability to sense joy, seek joy, and share joy. In fact, one of my daughters, her name is Joy. So I feel like for me, that was always with me, how much I was always looking for joy, being with joy, and also sharing it. And many people have said to me that they just like to be in my presence because they feel happy, they feel good, which for me is joy, after being with me. So I think that's my gift.
That's beautiful. How all this applies in the daily life. For instance, especially now when people are a bit worried and scared about the virus, about their health, you have been through some real challenges, physically speaking. So what would be the thing that you would tell them to do?
They're not going to like this, though.
Just say it. Somebody needs to say it.
Yeah. Stop allowing things that diminish you in your universe. So there's so many people out there who think they have to tell the truth or give information. And I'm like, that's great. Absolutely, get information. But if that information, or if that, what you call that truth, is making you feel less, is making you feel less powerful, less loved, less good, stop it. Just right now, stop it. Who cares? I don't care. I really do not need information or truth that's going to make me feel less, because that means it's not true. There's no true information, no fact that can make you feel less. The true information will always make you feel more powerful, more loved, or with greater possibilities. And if it doesn't do that in your world, then it's just fake news, and there are a lot of conversations about fake news out there, because there is a lot of fake news. So okay, you know how we always said people who post selfies, they, you know, there's all these filters, there's these angles that make you look good, and it's like, it's not really you, it's just an image that you're posting. Like you said, we don't really know each other until we have a conversation. So why would people, because they see pictures, so they have not been to the places, they have not talked to the people, they only see pictures on the internet with a certain angle. So the photographer use a camera that shows you a certain angle and also has a perspective in their mind of what they want you to see. So you only see where they're taking, not the whole picture. Why would you think that's more real than the selfies that you've been judging for the last couple of years, right? They're not. So any information, any data that makes you feel less, makes you feel like there's less possibilities in your world, or you're less loved or less powerful, it's fake. And I really would love people to start seeing this and just be, okay, I am no longer allowing that in my world, and only allow the things that raise you up, the things that create more possibilities, the things that really make you feel like you are taken care of, period. Nothing else. Sorry, I'm very passionate about this.
No, that's good. That's what we wanted to tap into. I totally agree with that. I like this new definition of fake news. Everything that is not true is fake.
Absolutely.
Everything that is not true, pure information about who we are, is fake news.
It is. It is totally fake news. I mean, I'm blown away. Like, you know, I don't want to get into politics, but I hear the politicians, and I can tell what their intention is behind their words. The problem is they are terrible communicators. Terrible communicators. So a lot of our politicians actually want something great for the people, but they don't know how to talk about it. And so the people are fighting them because the way they spoke about it goes against what the people want to hear. But that doesn't mean that the intention behind the words is not good. So I'm like, don't pay attention to what makes you feel less, period. Like, stop it. Just stop it, stop it, stop it. It's really the most important discipline you can have in your life, man. The most important one.
Back to simplicity, isn't it?
Yeah.
Simple things. So if we resume, don't listen to what is fake. Listen to your heart. Feel loved. Be a source and of joy, and make that choice. And if you were to give a metaphor for choosing, what would that be? Whether to choose between connecting to a greater source, or listening to fake news, or judging myself, or letting go of judging myself, what would be the metaphor that you would use to describe choice?
The sun will shine even if you put sunglasses on, even if you go into the house, even if you go in the earth. No, it doesn't matter. The sun will still shine. The sun has no shame. The sun does not hide itself. No matter how you try to not look at it, the sun will still be there, right? All the time. So even if you don't make that choice right now, even if you think that that choice, if you take a choice that makes you feel less, it's okay, because the choice that is there to uplift you and make you feel loved is still there. The light is always there. It doesn't matter how much darkness you go into, the light will always be there. Now, it's the person who puts the sunglasses on may think suddenly the sun is less, right? But it isn't. So even if you, right now, for a moment, you allow yourself to be in less possibilities, to be in a moment of darkness, that's okay, because the light is still there. It's still shining. And when you're ready to take off those glasses, it will still be there. So I don't know if that's what you were asking for, but I felt that that's what I needed to say.
That's precisely it. That's precisely it. So basically, the greatest lie that we can tell ourselves is that we cannot, let me rephrase that. The greatest lie that we can tell ourselves, that we tell ourselves, is that we can not be in the light.
Exactly. Exactly. You're absolutely right. That's the greatest lie.
Would you have any little, not meditation, but something that we can all do now with you to go into that feeling of feeling wrapped in love and feeling that sense of tenderness and knowing that I'm being taken care of, nothing bad could ever happen to me, even if I leave the body.
Yeah.
Can you please guide us into that
Okay.
in a way or another?
So close your eyes and put your hand on your heart,
Yes.
just for a moment. And with your hand, feel the beating of your heart. And just listen, like pay attention to the beating of your heart, just for a few minutes. Or in a few seconds, just relax completely into your body from head to toe. Wherever there is tension, let it go. And if you cannot let it go, just stay with it, but don't judge it, don't resist it. And focus on your hand, on the warmth of your hand on your heart. Just focus on that. And as you're focusing on that, you're going to ask your heart, what do you want to tell me? What do you want me to hear? Just listen to your heart for a few seconds. What does your heart want you to know? And as you are listening, I want you to pay attention to any sensation that you have, whether it's in your limbs, in your neck. Continue listening, but also pay attention to the sensations. Now focus on your breathing for a second. And as you're focusing on your breathing, listen again. There's another voice. That's not your heart. That's much, much softer. Maybe a voice that makes a sound you don't recognize. Maybe it's not a word yet. Or maybe it is. And that other voice is an invitation. It's an invitation to something a lot greater, something you have not explored yet. So imagine that you had an anchor, and right now you're still anchored. But all it takes is for you to let go of that anchor. And when you look at the anchor, you see that the only thing holding you to that anchor are your hands. So very gently, open up your hands and let go of that anchor and allow yourself to say yes to the invitation. And if you don't feel anything and if you don't see anything, it's okay. Just relax and just say yes. And when you're ready, open your eyes.
Wow, that felt good. I felt lots of sensations in the body.
Nice, yeah.
And an uplifting, like moving up towards something higher and greater. And the feeling of being reassured. And
nice.
at the same time, grounded. That felt good. Because you fear that if you go up there in the air, you're going to feel lost. But actually, it's very grounding.
Yeah.
Feeling love is actually feeling very grounded, yes, in the heart.
Yeah.
And what I got as well is when you mentioned to listen to a greater voice, something else than yours. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel anything, but I had this feeling of excitement, like you feel when you're in love.
Yeah.
You can't wait to hear the voice of the loved one, or that expectation of meeting them and seeing them and being with them. It's like feeling in love, actually. A bit. It's a glimpse of that.
Yes. I
And of course,
remember.
it goes beyond words.
Absolutely. When I started connecting to my faith, I felt like I had a crush on somebody. I just didn't know who. It was so awesome. I was like, oh, I wonder if somebody's going to come into my life. It was really funny. It was really funny. So yeah, yay. I'm so glad you got all of that.
No, thank you. Thank you. It's a fantastic experience, isn't it? And it's so powerful to be able to share that. And
Yeah.
I think we should move beyond being ashamed or scared or um, maybe shy to share these things and these experiences, because they're real. And if science hasn't yet found the scientific study to prove that there is a God, or that there is faith, or that there is love, well, too bad, because these things are happening. Many people are experiencing them. And that's the point for this interview, is to allow people to connect with what you experience, to pick up from this conversation what they need, and to get not only inspired, because inspiration to me involves the fact that you're not that good yet. And
Yes, I agree.
to me, everybody has that. Everybody is part of the source. Everybody has all these abilities to connect, to love, and we just forgot it. And this is a sort of reminder. Through these conversations, I want people to remember who they are through all possible ways, and to show that each person, regardless of what path they've chosen, as they say in the Bhagavad Gita, each person is a way that leads to me. That's what God said in Bhagavad Gita. Each person draws his own path towards the truth. And
Nice.
you are one of them. And unless you want to, well, I had one more question actually, if you want to share. But this is just for the purpose of people to be able to connect to something. What is the greatest emotion or the greatest feeling that you've experienced so far? And how would you describe it, without going and trying to define it too much, but as a feeling in your body?
So as a sensation, you mean?
As the highest emotional state
Okay.
that you have reached.
Okay. I don't like the word that's being used for that, but
Rephrase it in your own terms.
okay, well, I'm still going to use that word, but I want to disassociate it with its significance. So the best word that comes in mind is orgasm, but in French we have an expression for true orgasm, and it's la petite mort, the little death. And what happens when you really reach that true orgasm is you let go completely of your definitions and you embrace something that's much, much greater. Now, that's probably the greatest sensation that I've ever had, is when I reach that true orgasm, it feels like I'm connected to everybody on the planet at once, and almost like we're all like are worshiping or praising something much greater at that time, at that moment. So, and also because time is an illusion, it's not because I'm in joy or I am at the highest level and my neighbor is not, that we cannot connect. So the connection is eternal, it's limitless. And when I reach that true orgasm, it really feels like I'm connecting with all the spirits all around the world, and we are all together, kind of in communion. It has actually very little to do with the sexual experience. It is more of for me, it's more the body, the mind, the soul, the spirit kind of joining together and being in that 100% communion with no fear whatsoever. No fear. Like that's why we call it the little death in French, because it feels like I'm dying, even though I'm not really dying. But I'm dying as a definition of who I am on this planet. And so that probably is the greatest feeling. I hope
It will be gotten the right way.
yeah. How's that? Is that good?
Very good. Yeah, thank you. Would you have anything else to share or to add to everything we discussed so far?
We definitely went further than I thought we would go. So that was awesome. You know, I'm looking a lot at fear right now because fear takes so many different colors, different shapes, and I hear a lot of people say that fear is actually a good thing, but I think there's a difference between fear and awareness. So especially in this time in our story, I would say remain aware, stay aware, but fear is never something that's going to give you more power. Awareness will give you more power. Fear, probably not. So instead of justifying your fear, because there's a lot of justification right now, I would say look at it, observe it, don't judge it, don't say it's bad or wrong, look at it, but no, there's something much greater behind it. Don't stop there. There's always something greater behind fear. And if you don't feel like you're a friend, you're fine, you're good, but there is an area of your life where you're not fully expressed, that's because there's a fear there. So just look at it without judging it, and you'll see something a lot greater behind it, I promise.
Thank you so much, Sophie. Thank you so much for taking the time, and I'm really delighted we had this conversation. And I hope it will happen again.
Yes.
In different ways. We don't have to record it. We can just simply meet and talk and exchange. That would be awesome.
That's
so
it.
I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you so much.
Yes.
And I'll see you soon.